Welcome to Starship Evo, the ultimate space sandbox where you can create and explore wherever you want in a vast, vast galaxy. Think No Man's Sky and Space Engineers had a love child created all by one dev, and he's created a hidden gem. I'm going to show you the ins and outs of this game from the basics all the way to complex methods. I'm going to be your guide for the next 6 hours, but I have an index already set up. So of course, you can just skip around to the parts that you need to see. The codex is going to pop up on the screen, and that will show you the different times for all the different areas that I am going to cover. My name is Space, your intergalactic guide to Starship Evo. Let's dive right into this world and get you started. Welcome to the Starship Evo main menu. I'm going to show you around a little bit. The first thing we got over here is the language options. There's quite a few different options for you, and I'm sure in the future there's even more localizations that are going to be coming to the game. Over here on the right side, you're going to see the latest patch notes, and you can click on any of these, and those will open your internet browser and show you the latest changes. This game is made by one developer, as I might have mentioned already, and he does all kinds of patches to this game constantly. This is a labor of love, and you can tell a lot of passion was put into this game. All right, and then we, of course, have our play button. We'll get into that in a moment. Join servers for multiplayer. That will be in another chapter. We'll cover that. Help. This is just for some simple little guides, but I mean, you're watching this tutorial video, so this is just to kind of help you if you don't remember something from the video. And then we have, of course, our options. Now, sound options are pretty limited. I will say some of the sounds in this game can be pretty insane, so changing the game volume down a little bit might be worthwhile. And of course, you can adjust the music volume too. And then we have the controls. Controls, it's pretty basic in here, but you can change your switch brick subshapes. I don't use this, but you could use Alt Scroll instead of using just the scroll wheel, which I will be showing you how that works. You can also use controllers to control vehicles. So if you plug in your Xbox 360 controller, Xbox One controller, or PS5 DualSense, you can use it on the game to control vehicles. You can do some key mapping here. This also works for any of your controller controls. You can key map this to anything you want. And there is your graphics options. Now, this is an important one. Starship Evo is very GPU intensive. So, if you're close to minimum specs, I'm going to show you what settings you probably should use. Now, I usually would have 60 hertz on my monitor. For some reason, it's showing 29. I would recommend changing this to custom frame rate and changing your target frame rate to whatever you like, because if you make it unlimited frame rate, you're going to really affect your GPU. We have our FOV slider. I usually keep it at 70, but you can adjust it to whatever you want. If I do cinematic shots, I like to do 30. Ambient occlusion, one of the most GPU intensive things in the game, and you don't really notice it very much. I suggest turning this off. And aliasing, you can have it on or off, it doesn't really matter too much. Terrain tessellation, once again, this is a big GPU expensive setting. This will give you the 3D effect on the ground, on planets or moons, and I suggest having this off if you're not on a higher end GPU. Texture terrain quality. This just is determining the resolution of your terrain textures. I keep this at low for optimization, but I record videos for this game a lot, and my PC uses a lot of resources for the recordings. So you could adjust this as your liking, I'd say. But planet terrain textures. This right here is another one that's going to eat your GPU alive. You'll get 5 FPS if you don't have a really good GPU. So I would suggest putting this too low. This game can be very taxing on the GPU side, but you'll kind of see why when we get into it. Bloom, I would suggest having this on. This is going to really make colors pop and make all your lights glow, of course. Chromatic aberration, you can have it on or off if you want. That just gives the little shimmering kind of blur effect to the camera, make it like a lens. And vignetting, I also kind of have this off as personal preference. So that's it for the graphic settings. Now there is a mods option, but as of right now, I don't know of any mods for this game, other than one that I will go over. Now, apparently, your faction vehicles count as mods, so maybe those are mods. Because I do have some faction vehicles, so maybe that's how that works, and I just don't understand it myself. And then, anyway, the last button, of course, is exit if you want to get out of here. If you have any issues with the game, at the bottom right, you can click this, and this takes you straight to the GitHub. And this is the best way to reach the developer if you have any bugs or issues, or even have any features you might be requesting and wanting to add into the game. So, yeah, that's really it. Then there's some other links here if you want to join the personal Discord or join any of this other stuff. All the different links are right there. You can click. But that's it for the main menu tour. Next, we're going to go ahead and start creating a new character. So, at first, I know you're going to want to go into survival. We have survival and we have creative. Go into creative because right now, if you're learning something in this tutorial, uh, just name your character wherever you want. I'll just name this one of my variations. And you can keep the seed, you can make it whatever random letters you want. This will adjust the galaxy, what the spawns for resources and stuff are. So there's the random world seeds kind of thing. And then, like I say, with getting into creative, all the survival items have resource costs and build time, and we will get into survival in this tutorial. But for the purpose of learning, if you want to follow this video, I would suggest going into creative so you can immediately get the parts that you need that I might be showing on screen. And it's going to help us a lot there. So I would suggest going into creative. It's really up to you in the start. It might be harder to follow this tutorial at first, and you have to skip around to the survival section if you don't start with creative here. Um, we're going to go to the appearance options, and you can make this whatever appearance you want. There's a lot of different races in the game. It's very cool. I'm usually a shroom man. This is my main character. I usually always I use the purple and red as my color scheme. There he is. That's Mushroom Man. Um, and yeah, that's him. There's all kinds of cool races. There's more you can go through. We can kind of show all the races here. So there's the Fenrir. There's male and female for all of them. Unless they don't have a gender. The Vic. There's a flower guy. Then the human, male, female, mantis. Then there's the female of um the tiger person. And then of course you can configure your mods right here. And after you're ready to go, you hit play. Let's get into it. All right, we just spawned in. The first thing you're going to get welcomed with is, of course, this talking about the tutorial, but you're literally watching a tutorial video, so we're not going to worry about that. I'm just going to walk out of the med bay. I'll actually explain the med bay real quick. The med bay is actually your respawn point if you ever die. If you make one of these on your base or ship, you can heal here and you can use it as a area to scan and respawn. All right, so we're gonna go over some of the basic controls here. W, A, and S and D, of course, are gonna be your movement controls. Spacebar's jump. If you have a jetpack equipped, which in survival you have to make it, but in creative you'll always have it, you press J, and on the bottom left there, you're gonna see a little symbol that will change. The anti-gravity jetpack is just like this. Of course, the tutorial's telling me right now. Space is up with the jetpack. Control is down. And then if you press J one more time, it'll give you translation control. And if you press E or Q, you can roll. So you can use that. Of course, that's pretty much the basics of movement and all that stuff. You can see at the bottom left there, we have a L for light, if you want to use your light. H will toggle on and off your helmet, but we'll show you how to do or some of the rundown of the other controls we got here. We have the light, which is L on the keyboard, and then you have H, which is going to toggle your helmet on and off. I will show you how to get that just auto toggled. I think auto toggling is already on, and pressing V is your scanner. That's how you're going to see your resources and how you can see the names of individuals, of people that might be near you, players or AI. So yeah, that is really it for these controls. If you just press J one last time, it'll turn off your jetpack and you'll fall. Next thing I'm going to go into, you press Tab on your keyboard. This will open your main backpack menu, the codex. We're gonna go back into the codex in a second. This is all your blocks in creative mode. You're gonna mainly see all this. In survival, you won't see all this. So at the top here, we have our different tabs. The first tab is, of course, your normal codex, where you're gonna have your inventory stuff. Player progression is your second tab. This is kind of your basic tutorial on the basic steps in survival and the plan of what you should be doing to really advance your survival career. But I will be going through all of that. Factions, when you meet factions in the galaxy, they're going to show up here. Same with pirates, the reputation with them. And then this is your Steam achievements, the list of all the Steam achievements you've accomplished. And up here at the top right, you see your credits. And then we're going to go up here to this third tab, which is missions. And this is where you're going to have all your missions appear. For our purpose, since you're watching a tutorial video, you can actually disable or dismiss this tutorial we are currently doing. You just press cancel, and then the tutorial notifications will no longer bother you because I'm going to teach you how to do everything you need to do. And then we're going to go to the fourth tab, teleport. This lets you take yourself anywhere you want. In creative, there's going to be, of course, a lot more options, but this will, if you have a teleporter on your ship or base, you can teleport back to it. It's pretty useful. Teleporters can be a little bit resource intensive to make. The fifth menu here is your current entity. If you have a ship or a base, the last one you worked on or put a block on, and in this case, this is the area we spawned at, it will show the information for that item, and this is how you can save, spawn, all that stuff. I bet we could probably unspawn this whole station if I just press that. I don't know if I want to do that though. Blah, blah, blah. We can just press proceed there. The last one is help. This is just like the help menu on the main menu. If you ever need a reference on controls or anything like that, it's all there. So yeah, that's all there is for the tab menu, other than, of course, the main event codex. So we have our tabs here on the left side of our codex. The crafting tab, this is going to be your initial survival tab. We'll get into a lot of this stuff. but the tools I will go over right now. The repair tool, you can just use this. This is like a little gun that you can shoot and it will repair whatever you're shooting at. You're going to see that little bar fill up at the pieces that get damaged can be repaired. And you can usually visually see when a piece is damaged. The link tool, your best friend in the game. This is how you do everything in the game. If you hold left click on any item, you can see information on it, or you can pull and link items together. Now, this isn't something we own, so we probably can't mess with this, but this is going to be your main, most powerful tool to do most things in this game is this link tool. The third thing is also the second most important tool, or I guess first, since for survival you need this. The mining tool. This is your mining laser. This is going to get you all your ore. This is how you can destroy stuff. We could literally destroy this station slowly by scrapping it. And yeah, you can see all the little individual pieces there. And then we have the symmetry tool. Now, I'm gonna have to probably build something. Oh no, we can use symmetry tool on this. So you have your x-axis, and if you press R, you can rotate. R is for rotate. Every time you tap that, you have your z-axis, and you have your y-axis. Or I think this is the z-axis, and the other one's the y-axis. But yeah, you can choose your symmetry, and you could have all three on something if you want. You can place that, and then place that. And then if you were to make a block, then it would put it in all those symmetry places at once. So you could right click any of those bounds, doesn't matter what you have equipped. If you right click on it while you have the symmetry tool equipped, you can get rid of the symmetry. And then if you have symmetry on, if you press M on your keyboard, you can toggle on and off symmetry. And you're going to see it at the bottom right there, that X on the mirroring. So that is how you do that. So next up, we have our anti-grav tool. Now the anti-grav tool just lets you basically pick up things. This helps you pick up your ship. If it gets in a bad spot, you flip it over on accident. Whatever might happen, you use the anti-grav tool. You can pick it up, throw it around. It's like a grav gun in Half-Life. Think of that. The connect station tool, we're not going to go over that because I don't even know much about that. The copy paste tool, a finagly little beast. This one's we're gonna have to go into some detail to show you how it works because the copy paste tool is quite the annoyance to deal with sometimes, but it can be very powerful too. The delete tool, same kind of thing, box delete. You can hold, make a box and delete things. We will show that in the future. Rename tool. This is how you can tag stuff. So if you click on an item, like any of the stuff you build or anything like that, with the tag tool out, it will bring up a menu and you can type a label, call this whatever you want, and then when you mouse over it, it's going to say that thing that you want. So for example, you're in a cockpit and you want something to say landing gear when you mouse over the button, then you can do that with the tag tool. All right. And one last thing in the inventory, we're going to look at this right side here. This is what I was talking about with the jetpack. The jetpack is equipped into your add-on slot, which you craft the add-ons, and we will show you how to do the crafting and everything like that. And then we have upgrades and your movement thing. We can have a hoverboard or a scooter, and I will show you also how all that works. So yeah, that's pretty much all the basics there on your tab menu. Some of the more of the explanations at the bottom left, you have your health bar, and then you see to the right of that, it will show if there's O2 in the place that you're in or not. It will have a little blue check mark, and then it will show the gravity of the moon or planet or station you're at. Also, we have 1g gravity, so it's 1 to 1 like just like Earth. We just jump normally and all that. So, any of the other stuff if you want to change your toolbar to a different toolbar, or if you want to switch stuff in your toolbar, you just scroll your mouse wheel, and that will let you change stuff in your toolbar, change to whatever you want at the bottom. And then if you hold shift and scroll your mouse wheel, you can change which bar you're on. And you have 3 bars. So yeah, that's really all there is to that. Now, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to take you somewhere else right now. So open up your tab menu, go to teleport, and we are going to teleport ourselves to one of the areas. Let me see, the teleport stations, the main hall. Gonna All right. So open up that tab menu and go over to the teleport tab, the third one over, and you're going to want to scroll down and go and teleport to starting station shipyard 1 main hall. You're going to see a little spaceship symbol. Teleport yourself there. I'm already here. And this is if you downloaded any ships off the workshop, if you just want to mess around with those, you can spawn them right here. If you just want to go spawn a ship, or I will of course show you the other way to spawn a ship. But we're going to go ahead and head down this elevator. And we can come outside. Since I'm in creative, don't even really necessarily need the helmet. But this will be our workspace for now to learn the basics of building. So what I'm going to do, I am going to, you just click any item on your toolbar and then click off the toolbar, you can get rid of it, or you can just throw it on the ground if it's an actual item. I don't even really need the mining tool right now. Usually mining tool I would always keep. I do need a couple of those though. I need the link tool. Link tool will be on the first bar, and I got my symmetry tool. That's really it. All right, so what I'm going to do next is give you an introduction to the block grids and how all that stuff works. There's one last menu I want to go over before we end up getting into the building, guys. Hit F1 on your keyboard. That's going to open your build options menu. This is a very powerful menu, and I want to get into this because this has grid settings in it. So if you click this first tab here, I'm going to reset all mine to defaults of what you would usually see when you start. And we'll change all of this. And you're going to have your placement or grid origin. This is going to change if you're going to be in a 1 meter, a half meter, or a quarter meter grid when you're placing a block. Or actually, no, this is the global origin grid. So this is going to be either your global grid that you have on the ground or your grid that is aligned to the block that you're placing another block onto. Basically, it's very situational, so I suggest keeping on global origin. This right here changes from 1 meter to half grid to quarter grid. I suggest having this placement grid to quarter grid. I'd play the entire game for like over 700 hours. I've been playing quarter grid. I don't change it off of that. You can change your max grid or your minimum grid. You can go all the way up to 32 meter blocks. That means a singular block is 32 meters big. And then usually I keep it at 2 meters as my maximum. And then your minimum here, you can go all the way down to 0.125 meters. And I suggest taking your bar and getting that smallest one because by default you don't have the smallest block in the game, and you can make really cool things with those tiny blocks and also fill in nice spaces. So that's really all you need to know about the grid settings. I usually keep this exact setting set up all the time, and of course if you want to have bigger blocks you can just adjust this, or if you don't want to do that. You don't have to worry about it, but you basically get access to all the block sizes in between. So you get all of these different block sizes and you can put all of them together on one vessel. It's not like Space Engineers where it's limited to just two. It's all of them put together. You could have as many grids together as you want. So that's going to wrap up chapter one. Oh, wait. One last thing I want to talk about here, and that is fast delete. So right here, by default, we're going to be going back to this menu, but long delete basically meaning you have to hold right click to delete an item. I suggest changing this to long delete only on sensitive, meaning if it's only an important part that you know you wouldn't want to delete easily, that's the only time you're going to have to hold down right click. We'll go into some of these other buttons when we need to use them basically. These are all kind of honestly cheaty things, so you're not going to really have to worry about them right now. But yeah, that's really all there is to the build menu. There is also F4, which is third person camera, and then F2, which get rid of your HUD. That's how you remove the HUD. And F6 is photo mode, and that lets you go outside of your body. Press F2, we can bring the HUD back, and you can see some different options there. For example, if you wanted to record yourself, you can do this where player lock on camera, F10 after you're in the camera mode, and then we have the player lock on camera. It's locked on to me. And you can just mess around with that. Cool for doing ship tracking shots or recording videos like I do. But yeah, that's really all there is to that. I don't think there's any more buttons I'm forgetting about. Oh, yes, F5 is no clip mode. No clip is very useful for building. You can use this in survival too, but I mean, it would be kind of cheaty to use it all the time, so I suggest just using it for building in survival. But no clip, I almost couldn't live without no clip. I'm hoping that in the future the game gets the ability to just use like a little building drone that no clips and then you wouldn't be able to use it in combat. But yeah, that's it for chapter one. This is really the end of chapter one. Now we're going to go into chapter two and introduce you to all the building process and the basic blocks. Welcome to chapter 2, where I'm going to show you all the basics of how to use all the blocks and how all of them kind of fit together, you could say. So I have an example of the 2-meter grid, the 1-meter grid, the half-meter grid, the quarter-meter grid, and then the 1/10 grid. This is the smallest one, and I love these smallest blocks. And then we have the wedge. These are all in 1 meter here, I'm showing. The pyramid, the square pyramid, and then we have the inverse pyramid. And we have a cargo ship doing somersaults in the background. We're not going to worry about that. All right, so you have all of the blocks here. This is your canvas, and one of the most amazing things about Starship Evo is all of these grids, as many as you want, all the way up to the 32-meter grid if you change the setting in your grid settings, the F1 menu. If you change this maximum all the way up to 32, I usually keep it at 2 meters. But the components in the game also scale that way, and I will show you that and how they work, how their function scales. But this is just the basics. Now, I recommend for this part of the tutorial and then our next chapter to be in creative mode so you can follow along. And really, the best way to learn anything is by practice. You gotta actually do it. Just watching or reading something just doesn't usually do it fully for you. So, what you're gonna do, press tab and open up your menu, your little backpack menu, and you're gonna mouse down to the fourth tab here, and you're gonna go to this. This is your bricks. You only see this if you're in creative. If you're in survival, you won't even see this bricks menu because you have to craft everything from assemblers and such. So what I'm gonna want you to do is add a starter block to your toolbar. Just click it and put it wherever you like on your toolbar. I like to put it in the first slot. And then you're going to go up to the search bar up top and just type in hole. And make sure that you get the scrappy hole. In survival mode, this normal hole, it's going to be a very long time before you ever use it. So if you're going to make anything in creative and then use it in survival, I highly suggest making it out of scrappy hole. So go ahead and add that scrappy hole to your toolbar also. So then you'll have those two items, and that's all you need for now. So you can go ahead and press tab again, back out of that menu. And what you're going to do is we're going to place down a starter block. Now, rule of thumb with a starter block, we won't see the green right now because we're not on land. If you were to make a base, it would turn green when you put the starter block on the ground. Now you're going to see it's blue here. Blue means you're going to make a ship. You're going to make either a ship, hovercraft, or a mech suit. You can make either of those three things. And then you, of course, have anything else you might want to make, like the bases and such. So yeah, and there's also stations. We're not going to really go into stations in this tutorial series because I don't fully understand them either. Now, if you're in creative mode, you won't see this in survival, but in creative, if you press F, which is your interact button with anything in this game, the interact key, press F, and this will open up all of your blueprints. If you have anything you've subscribed to on the workshop, you got to give it a second to load, especially if you have a lot of blueprints like me. All of these will appear. Anything you have made, if you want to just show what you've made, or just personal files, just unclick the Steam one. But you'll have all of your crafts that you might have subbed to. Some of my own crafts that I've created also are all here. But if you want to spawn something, you literally just click on it and it will replace the starter block with your vehicle. So that's really as simple as that if you want to spawn a vehicle, but we're not going to go into that right now because we want to learn how to build a vehicle. So we have our starter block here, and what you're going to do, we're going to go ahead and, like I showed in chapter 1, press tab, go into your tools. You're going to add that symmetry tool right here. The symmetry tool, just add it anywhere on your toolbar, your preferred area. It's one of those I kind of recommend keeping on the toolbar at all times. And then after that, bring your symmetry tool out and choose whatever symmetry you'd like to align to. This is your Z, Y, and X. So we're going to go on the X-axis. We're going to build it like this. And you'll go back over to your scrappy hole. And what we're going to do is just simply place a scrappy hole down. Oh, I pressed M. If you press M, you can toggle on and off mirroring. So we're going to go ahead and put that scrappy hole on. And now you can delete your starter block. It is only needed when you first start. And now we have our own vessel. And to confirm that we have this vessel, you can press tab, go up to this fourth menu up here. This is your entity tab. This is where you can name it. We're going to call it Starter Craft. And we'll just get rid of that because it keeps that other stuff. If you make a faction or anything, we'll go into that. Description, you can write all that down. And then you can save that. If you're in creative, you can just refill all the fuel tanks easily by one button press, and we have some other options here we're not going to get into right now. But this is also where you change your third person camera. We'll go into that in one of the future chapters, a little bit more advanced stuff. But we have our blocks here, and now I'm going to show you how stretching works. This vehicle is going to be flipping around in the background the whole time I do this. So if you hold down your click, you're going to see right here, it's now showing arrows. You see that down arrow and that right arrow? So if you pull while holding left click, you can stretch the block. You're going to see? And since we're attaching from the side of this block, it stretches first on the x-axis. You can see how we can stretch it all around this way. If you press R, which is your rotate key, you can switch it to a straight axis, and then you can pull it this way. So for example, since we're starting on this wall, you would get your x-axis done first, however big you want to make it. Then you press R and then pull out your y-axis. And there you go. And then of course it would be opposite if you're doing it on the top. So if you're on the top, it's going to stretch across the top. And then if you press R, it's going to do the same thing. All the blocks can do this. So for example, we want to take this side, and since we're mounting from the side, we press R, pull it forward, and release. And since we have mirroring, it's good to go. And then see, since I'm putting this block on this right wall, it's allowing me to pull across on this axis. And that's kind of how that works. Now we have a little platform. So what you could do next is if you scroll your mouse wheel, that is how you change the block type. That is how you go through the 5 different types you have. So we're going to go ahead and take a wedge here, hold down your left click, and pull that across, press R, then pull that outwards. There you go. And now you have a nice little edge right there. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to show you something that's going to be extremely useful whenever you're doing anything in this game for building. And it's called the mounting block. You're basically going to be putting a block down to be able to put this other block down. So for example, I want to put a pyramid here, but I can't get it sitting in the right place. Or a better example is I want to use an inverse pyramid here. So you can see I'm rotating it and I won't ever be able to get that right axis because I need to come from this wall, not this wall. So what we're going to do here is simply put a temporary block right there. And then if we switch back to our inverse pyramid, and if I am on this wall while I'm moused over and I rotate it, there it is. That's the correct area. So then you could go and hold down your left click and then press R to change the axis since you mounted it on that wall and let go. And there you go. You have an edge that changed just like that. And then if you wanted to, you could come down here. We're going to get a pyramid. And since you're mounting on that flat axis, you have control going this way. So since this is just 1 by 1 or a 1 by 2, you want to copy that going down. Now you can see we're getting a nice little angle right here. Now this is where the mounting block will come into play again. So we have right here. We could put the mounting block right here on this back line. You want to make sure to keep it on your block line. And then what we could do, since we're mounting from the bottom of this block, you can already see my rotation is lined up. So if I go and pull it, there it is. And now we have a second layer here. So what if we wanted to switch the angle that it's on? So you might want to do like this, and of course it won't match up, it won't work. You can't do it necessarily on the pyramid one. you got to do it on the inverse pyramid. So we're going to get our mounting block right here. And you're going to get your inverse pyramid back. Put it right here. And then press, actually, get this axis, your wide axis first. And then since you have control of both sides because you mounted from this bottom area, you can pull it over just like that. And now we've changed the angle of the front edge. And then you can just go back with your pyramid. Oh, and you might want to mount it from the back corner a lot of times, or either that or this top edge. And since we're mounting from that top edge, we have full control over that axis. Now with the pyramid, we could change the height axis. That is the one thing we can't change. We can change the height axis, like the Y, but we can't change the X or the Z if we were to want to use a pyramid after an inverse. But as you can see, we have now changed that angle again. So get our mounting block, put it right here, and then we could get that inverse pyramid, get it, stretch it to its angle, and then see, since we're mounting this a little differently, we have to press R to switch that angle. And if I wanted to, I could make that a sharp edge. See how it goes in sharply? Or we could go and make that a little bit of a softer edge by going, and since we have control over these two axes, you want to get that flat part done first. Then press R and pull down to the point. There you go. Now it's way more gradual. Now, for example, you wanted to go and put a boxy, like a square one here, and you're going to see immediately this will not fit. It doesn't work. The puzzle piece won't fit. So what you're going to have to do is have a square block that it attaches to. The square pyramid is meant to be used in situations where you have a triangle and you're trying to match it to a square. You want to mount from the square, pull it over to whatever size it is, that length, and you can make it whatever you want on this axis. So if we want to do like that, we could do that, and then press R, pull that down, and there you go. Now you have a squared off edge. And it's just really as simple as that. And right click is delete, by the way, on the keyboard. I might not have mentioned that, but I'm sure a text tip already showed up on the screen long before I said anything. But yeah, you get the basic idea there. So let's scale this back and work on a little bit more of a, you get the basics. We're going to go all the way back to just a rectangle. You know what? We're going to get rid of it all. We're going to do this. And I'm going to show you how you can mix the block grids now. So we're going to go ahead here, and if you press G, that's how you toggle through all your block grids. You have to go in a line, so if you skip a block grid, you'd have to go over. But you can kind of see, this is a 1/4 block grid, and you can see it, 4 of these would make, or actually 8 of these would make one block that we've been using before. See? So what you could do, so we have all that there, and we could do something a little crazy. Since we're mixing these block grids, we have that center block, and we can go ahead and mix these smaller grids with it. So we can go ahead and pull that down. Since we're mounting from this wall, we have all the control here, and we can pull that all the way over, because you can go all the way up to 16 tiles past the point, no matter what size you're using. Now we have a lot more of a thin area. And then I could show you how you start with a pyramid. So for example, you wanted to go here and make a nice sharp nose, and you can kind of look there at that bottom line however you want to angle it, like a little boat nose or something. And then there's two options you could go about doing this. Since this is a smaller area, you could get the wedge, the second option, get that angle stretched out on this flat axis and press R, pull it out. And there you go. Now you have a nice little angle there. But what if you wanted to use the inverse instead? And that's just really just as simple because we have the symmetry. You want to make sure that the inverse pyramid is being mounted from the back wall. And you can kind of see there when you're rotating it. You see how that rotation, where that angled part is lining up, like it's going with an angled side here. So go ahead and put that in. Make sure it is 2 because you want to make sure it's matching on that axis. It's always got to be matching. So we want 2. And then we're going to go all the way stretching outward and match that top axis. And there you go. And now it's more tapered looking. And then if you wanted, you could add another layer here by taking our pyramid. And when it's a really small bit like that, I would suggest going from the back side. And we're just going to go and stretch that all the way up. And there you go. Now it has a nice little tip. So then you could go with your wedges right here. And then just go like this. And you're immediately going to notice now it doesn't line up right here. So what do we do about that? Well, this is where your inverse pyramid and your pyramid can work together. So you would mount an inverse pyramid right here. You can kind of see right here. And you can see where that one needs a pyramid right there. And you want to go all the way back to the line, copying where that would end. So see how that pyramid would end right there? So we just go ahead and place that. And then you can come back with the pyramid and then simply pull it across. And ta-da! There it is. And you've made a nice little sleek hole really easily. And there you go. We can go ahead and put wedges in now because we have that angle aligned. So now we can use wedges for the rest of this. And that's a great example of how all of that could work. So if I wanted to, you could make little nose on here. We could get the pyramids and just go ahead and you can see how the angle is going to change. You see that preview of the angle? So you could have a really snubby nose, but that, you know, kind of looks a little weird. So you could go and make it a little bit sharper. So there you go. You got a nice little sharp nose there. You can kind of see where that angle still slightly changes. And of course, you could just stretch it out more to make sure the angles match. And you could copy this same idea going all the way down, going all the way back if you wanted to taper it. So you can kind of see that angle where the pyramid would go. Since these are 2 blocks right next to each other, you could actually just go with a straight pyramid and make sure it matches to that front edge. Wherever that front edge ended, you got to make sure it matches or it won't look right. And there you go. Now we have that. And then just like that layer right here, we could take a wedge, drag it across, and there you go. So going from here, you could go and add some inverse pyramids, but oh no, we run into the same problem. I can't rotate it the right way. So we're going to use our mounting block again, right there. And then you can go and take the inverse, or you could even do a square one if you wanted to. The square would work here. If you want to just taper off the hole and then put the engine in, you just do that. Or if you wanted to change the width of the ship, you put one inverse right there, and then you got to do another mounting block right here if you want to get that one. But you got to make sure you're doing a single because you got to copy whatever. So you can't do this because this is only 1 on that value. You have to copy that value. So you can kind of see here, we now have it. And look at that. Now it's tapering outwards. And then you could repeat that process, put that block, just a little square wherever you'd like. And then we just go and get our inverse. And you can kind of see we couldn't change the angle right here. So if you press R, we can go out. You can kind of see this won't match. See, if I pull out, it won't match. But what we can match is the pyramid, just like I was showing before. So we go, and now the pyramid can go as long as we want. And then you do the same thing right here. So for this situation, I need a block to be above right here. So we get 2 of your mounting blocks. Put 2 of them right there. And then we'll change to our inverse. And right there. And then all you have to do, since it's already correct on all these dimensions, you just press R. Or actually, you don't even need to press R. Just go and stretch it out and just touch the tip of that edge where you like it to end. Sometimes it can be a little finicky depending on how small of a thing you're working on. There you go. Pull that together, and now we could just get another pyramid right there. Make sure it matches. And now you have like a wing-like structure. So what you could do here now, since this is a flat angle, you could go and pull a wedge just like that. And then you could just fill that in with a block line if you wanted. And then this actually could have another wedge, but now we can't put it on the right axis. So that mounting block, once again, the mounting block will be your MVP and help a lot. So there we go. Make sure that that is it's showing me how to rotate things. Okay. Okay, game. Cheeky. Cheeky. All right. So there you go. You got an idea. And then if you wanted, you could taper this back. So go ahead and, so you couldn't do it on this axis. For this angle, you would have to pull it out to whatever length you want. And then you'd have to get the inverse pyramid here, which you can mount it from that sidewall. Go right there, because we already had a sidewall. But you're still kind of stuck. You can't change your axis. Sometimes you have to reset your axis, basically, to get something to be able to change. So we're going to now taper it out with just a 1 right there. And now that we have tapered it out, I can go take our inverse and just end that off. You can kind of see now we have this inner layer that is now flat and unaccomplished. So what you could do is just anything with a flat surface. The cube is my favorite mounting block, of course. Then we could change to a wedge right here. And you could do a wedge right there. You got to make sure that it matches that line. So just make sure you're matching that grid line. So that is a 4. But you could also do an inverse here. So there's 2 options. You have the wedge or the inverse. So we could go and start the inverse there. Pull it out. And the cool thing about this axis, we aren't limited to just that. We could go and pull this inverse way out. Since how this is mounted, we got to stretch it on these axes first. Then we could go up and down, but we don't need to go up and down. But there you go. There's that. I can't get over that thing flipping around in the background. But now you're going to see this won't match. This is where I mean where the X plane and the Z plane, they got to match. So now you'd have to go back here, and you now have to stretch this all the way back. And then you have the matching angle. So there is that. Boom. And there you go. Look at that. That is honestly a cool little start. It might be a little too aggressive right here on the tapering, but you get the idea. I mean, that it's way easier than you might think to make things not look blocky, and it's just really about exploring those ideas. There's 2 of them doing a dance. They're celebrating, guys. They're celebrating. My channel just hit 3,000 subscribers, and this video is kind of a celebration of that. Anyway, enough yammering on. I think you guys get the idea of the basics of building, and really, this is all I need to go over on this section. Um, the next thing I am going to be going over is going to be your basic components and how those all work. So we're going to start with some of the more basic things. So press tab, open your codex, and then go back to that bricks tab. It should already be open if you were already doing what you were doing. And just type in thruster. Go ahead and add that to your bar. And then you're going to add a Starship or spaceship computer, excuse me. I like to call it Starship computer because this game is called Starship Evo. Spaceship computer, you need this to be able to make any kind of craft function. And then grab a yoke. Look up yoke. Grab that. And these are the only three things you need to get a working ship. Other than, of course, power. So for power, just going to do something real basic. Look up cell. And you're going to add a power cell base. And then add a power cell. Not the power cell small, but a power cell to your toolbar. And that is all the essentials you need to make a working ship. Well, I guess we could get a solar panel so we could charge the batteries. In survival, you of course would have to make that, but this is the easy way because we have a sun right next to us. So look up sol and you'll find the solar panel. We'll just get that. And that is all the things you need from that menu. Now go to your third menu here, tools, and you're going to add the link tool. This is something I talked about in the first chapter. This is your most powerful and most important tool in the game. I suggest keeping this on your toolbar at all times. Put it on your toolbar, and we're ready to ride. I'm going to make this little goofy ship, fly. It might help to also have a seat, so you can, sit down and control the thing. So we're going to go ahead and get a seat. So of course, just type in seat. And this is really all the essentials. You have everything you need to make a working ship now. So what we're going to do, and I know this isn't going to make a lot of sense, but we're just, going to put it together and it will work. So go ahead and add a couple thrusters on the back. You can make these whatever size you want. So you can change the component size with the G, just like the other grids. But the power and how much power draw, how much power they give off. So for example, the thrusters would have more thrust power if you used a bigger grid size. Even if you were to stretch out things, which you can stretch these and resize them just like any other part in the game. I can make them really long. You can do crazy things like that. And then if you wanted, you could scroll on the thruster and you can make them square thrusters too. We have square and we have the normal thrusters. So we're just going to get a couple thrusters on here. I'll just do square ones. Just random square ones. And all you need is a thruster going backwards and a thruster going up or down. You do not need thrusters in every direction to make a vehicle work perfectly. So I could simply add just those. And now our ship will fly perfectly fine. Wouldn't be absolutely any issues with it flying. So now what you could do is go and get your seat. And we're just going to go ahead and mount it on top of a block because the seat will be a little too low if you just put it like this there. So we'll just get a little 1/4 meter block or whatever. We'll do 1/4 block, 1/4 meter. Put that on there. And then just simply get your yoke. Probably want to give a maybe a block or two of separation. And we'll put that maybe like 3 off the ground. You want to get that. And then just put your yoke down. Simple as that. And now you just need a spaceship computer. Place that wherever you'd like on the ship. For this example, we're just going to place it right there. And then we're going to grab our solar panel. Just throw these wherever. The solar panels mount to whatever wall you're on. So if we wanted, we could just mount the solar panels right here. You can stretch those out on that axis. Press R, pull them out. There you go. And then let's get some power cell bases. Let's put a few bases here. Just 3 is fine, since we have the solar panels. Then pull out your battery and press F on the power cell. Now, since we have multiple here, I didn't think about it. Power cells are something you actually use. So you're going to want to have 3 cells on your toolbar. So just add 2 more cells. And you just have to scroll to those. Make sure you're getting the normal size cells, not the small ones. Well, let's go ahead and just get that on. And now everything is working. All the batteries will level out. The power is all the exact same. So to make a ship work, it is literally as simple as this. You have all of the things you need to fly something. So now all you'd have to do, now you want to make sure you get your link tool out, click on the yoke, and pull from the yoke while holding down the left click to the spaceship computer. Don't do it the other way around. Don't try to put it this way. It is important what direction you link anything in this game. It might not function at all if you don't. So now press F on your spaceship computer, and it will show a detailed list of all of the stats of your ship. Your mass, the size of it, how much volume. It'll show your forward thrust and your velocity rating. So 100% would mean you're going 100% of what you would usually go. So we're 351% over what we need on our threshold. We make 900 kilonewtons of thrust. Very overpowered engines. And then you can see our agility is 111% because I just put way smaller agility engines. And then you have your velocity ratings. And light cruise and warp we won't worry about right now. It will show your power generated. These are what the solar panels are generating. And then it will show how much power your system draws when you fly around or if you're idling. And it shows we're only using 10% of our capacity, meaning we won't run out of any kind of power if we try to, fly around. And then we have our heat. So, the heat menu. What this is all about is all about combat. Heat is all about combat. And it's something we're going to go over in the combat tutorial. But basically, the more components you have, for example, a bunch of batteries and solar panels and engines all over your vessel, and then you don't have a lot of normal scrappy hull blocks like hull blocks, and you have way more components than hull blocks, it will raise your heat level. If your heat level is too high, when an enemy attacks you, they are going to fry you. They do way more damage to you because your system is overloaded, to sum it up. You're basically overheating the system. So you have to, for example, if you make a very small, compact craft that has hardly any hull blocks, you can't go crazy with the components in turn because you're going to see your heat is going to fly up and it's going to take like multiple minutes to dissipate it all. Now, this also goes along with your hull point health. This is your health pool of how much damage your craft can take before it blows up. The rule with the grid sizes is the smaller grid blocks you use are stronger, but they are heavier weight-wise. So if you're using the tiniest blocks in the game, they're much heavier than the normal 1 meter blocks, but they're also much better on health. You will get a much bigger health pool if you're using those blocks. So you have a trade-off by using the smaller grid pieces. That is something to note. And then at the bottom here, you're going to see your shield capacity if you have a shield on, which we'll go into that with the combat. And then your children entities, and it will show how many bricks or components is on all on your vessel. That's really all there is to it there on this spaceship computer. But since we see these thrust values, we know everything is all correctly connected. So, this thing is ready to fly. As goofy as that sounds, this thing is ready to fly. That's how simple it is to make a working craft in this game. So let's hop in our seat. You hold down F to interact with something and get in it. And then just hold down F again, and you will control the craft. And look at that. Mouse movement is how you control the craft, similar to No Man's Sky. The movement follows your reticle. Now that takes some getting used to. I didn't quite like that at first about this game, but as it grew on me, especially in combat, it's a very good way to control things. So, of course, just like walking around, the controls would be W, S would be forward and backward. Left and right is A and D. And then if you want to roll in your ship, Q and E. And Q and E, and as you can see, the A and D are controlled by your velocity, like the angular velocity thrusters. So those little ones that bit facing upwards. And then your forward and backward thrust would be controlled by those big main engines I had on top. So if you hold down spacebar, you can go up, control is down, and that is also controlled by the agility thrusters, the same ones that are going up and down. So if you now want to get out of your ship, press F, and you're going to see a little menu at the bottom right pop up. Press up or down on your W or S on your keyboard to cycle through that menu, and then hold down F to exit the spaceship. And that's how you exit control. And then you can just hold down F and we can get out of our chair again. There you go. So as you saw, these little thrusters were controlling our up-down movement, our left-right movement, and our rolling movement, while these thrusters only controlled forward and backward. So that is something to note when you're balancing everything out. But that's really all there is to the basics here. And one thing to note about the link tool, one of the reasons it's your best friend, if you click on any item in the game with the link tool, you don't have to hold click, just click it. As you can see, it is showing our spacecraft's front is right there, and up, like our y-axis, is up there. So the seat, of course, doesn't have any info, so nothing pops up. But if we click on this battery cell base right here, you can't click at the battery itself, but the cell base. See on the right side? Now a whole menu showing detailed stats about that component showed up. And this is how you can view detailed stuff. So you want to know how much the power is generating from your solar panel? Click on the solar panel with your link tool. It shows the exact output. It shows your efficiency. See, 96%. Now look, you see the sun is right above us. So if I was to control our spaceship, flip us sideways, so now these solar panels are not getting like any sun. Now this might not work, but in theory, we should now see less solar generation because of this. 11% efficiency. See? And that is gonna wrap up chapter 2. For chapter 3, now you're gonna put everything you've learned to the test, and I'm gonna do an unedited build of a ship from scratch, start to finish. And you can follow along with me, preferably in creative mode. Alright, are y'all warmed up? I hope this actually taught you quite a bit so far. Now it's time to put it to the test. We're gonna build an entire ship from scratch, start to finish together. So, as I was saying before, this is why it's good to be in creative. Hit tab, gotta make sure that it's the last thing you interacted with, your ship, if you want to go ahead and save it or despawn it. You don't have to despawn this if you don't want to. If you followed along with me and you made this and you want to finish it, you can finish it if you want. But after you place one block on there, then it will show up in the entity tab. There it is, our starter craft, and we can just hit unspawn, and this will get rid of it. In survival mode, if you unspawn something, the only way you're going to get it back is using the resources, so use unspawn very wisely in survival. But what we're going to do, drop another starter block. Boom, just drop that wherever we want. Go ahead and get that symmetry tool out. Get the symmetry placed in the middle there. For this instance, I'm using half-meter grid. That's what I used for the starter block. Half meter is what we're using. Press tab, and we're going to add a few more things to our toolbar, because all the bricks that you're going to have here are going to be everything you need to make a fully working craft that has fuel and all that stuff. So first you're going to look up tank and go ahead and add a tank to your toolbar. You're then going to want to add, we're going to use hose because it's the easier one. We'll use hose. There's also pipe, but pipe is something you have to work with more. So we're not going to use pipe right now. We're also going to get, let's see here. Gonna definitely want a couple more power cells. So we want life support. So you can just look up life, or you can kind of see, I saw it right there. But we need life support. And then we're going to look up light cruise engine. You want the light cruise engine. Add that to your toolbar. You want to have the normal thrusters and also the light cruise engine. And that should be all the basics that you need. Look up cell and go ahead and add a few cell batteries. Add probably like 2 or 3, depending on what you're gonna do. We'll add 4. And I think that is really all we're gonna need here. Oh yeah, I am gonna make this a simple mining vessel. So I want you to get a, look up mine, and you're gonna see the mining beam. Go ahead and add the mining beam to your toolbar. Then go ahead and look up storage unit. Add a storage unit. And then you're going to add, look up con, and you want a conveyor tube and the conveyor one way. You could also get the conveyor hose if you'd like to. It is up to you. One other thing you want to get while you're here with the construction is construction anchor. When you're done here, you'll pretty much have a full toolbar. Everything will be filled up other than these 2 slots for your link tool and your symmetry. So we have all of that, and there's just a couple more things we need, and that is just the collector. Actually, I believe the collector is the last thing we need. Oh, we also need a canopy. So look up can. canopy. This will be our glass. And now we have everything we need to make a fully complete ship. So, we'll go ahead and get to work. Go ahead and follow along with me on this one if you want to learn the best way. I mean, it's follow along. So what we're going to do is start with the blocks on the sides here. We are going to go out 7 blocks and then go 4 outwards. So this will give you a total. Oh, so we'll go ahead and get a block here in the middle. Oh, and what you can do is hit F5 on your keyboard to give you no clip, so you can go through blocks. It's much easier to build with no clip on, so I do recommend having it on for the build process. You can use no clip even in survival. But what we'll go ahead and do here, I think this should be good. We'll go ahead and just get some basic walls going here. And what you could do, if you want to have more interior space, use the smaller grid blocks. And we'll get that line up. We're going 14 across. And we're going to go, let's say 9 up. So one important thing, this is height measurements. You always want to make sure you can turn off your no clip real quick and then just hold control to set yourself down on here. And you could, I mean, if you're on a planet, you could turn off your helmet, but if you're in creative, you can turn off your helmet in space. You won't choke to death. And as you can see, that does clear with our head. So this will be a high enough ceiling for us. It's really important that you make a high enough ceiling to actually be able to walk in here, or else you're not going to have a very good time, will you? So make sure you do height checks. And what you could do for another height check is just simply enclose in the top. And we could bring that out just to the middle there. That was just 8 out. And then that will connect there with the mirroring. Now we can check again. If I go and the F2 gets rid of your HUD, but F4 is how you change to third person. You can kind of see there. So what we're going to do next is take some tanks here, and if you scroll on the tank on your mouse wheel, you're going to see there's a circular and there's a square one. You're going to get some square ones, and you're just going to put a line just like that. And then you're just going to go ahead and get the smallest one possible, just like that. And just make one more line, just like so. And you can make it really small, just as small as possible. You can turn on no clip again. And then what we're going to do is get our power cells. Make sure you make the grid as big as possible for the power cell bases. You don't want to put the small ones down. And then place the power cells, however many you want to have. In our case, we chose to have 4. So then go and press F to interact. Each power cell is a one-time use thing. That's why we got 4 and put them in the toolbar. So there we go. Now we have 4 of those. Now, next thing we're going to do is get a wall, and we could use the smallest grid here. Just switch it all the way down. And we'll just go ahead and stretch it over. And we're just covering this whole block layer. And you could keep the batteries exposed. What we could do is start that line up here. And then press R to switch the axis, pull it across. And then if we wanted, we could just do this and pull it up. And there you go. Those batteries are still showing and they're isolated. And you could, of course, enclose off the back here if you wanted to. You could go and take a block line. Just go ahead and pull it over. This is more just aesthetics, but you could like enclose this off. Boom. Just do it like that. And if you need to work your way in here, this is where, you know, the no clip comes in handy. Just get yourself wedged back here. And sometimes it's easier if you just pull one of the power cells out. And then you can just kind of wedge yourself in there. Oh wait, we're fine. We had enough space. So yeah, that'll work just like that. We don't have to worry about that front edge. So then what we're going to do next is take our light cruise engines and we're directly going to mount them to these tanks. Now this isn't completely necessary, but this is what we're going to do in this case because it'll make things way easier for us. So we'll just have the light cruise there. And then what you're going to do, you have the hose here that we took. So you're going to go ahead and get that hose, place it there on the right side, and then place another hose right here on that edge. Then change to your link tool, and you're going to hold down left click and pull that to that. And then look, see the hose connected. This is connected to your fuel tank. And then you have to do it for each hose that you put on. So we'll just go ahead and do that. And it really doesn't matter what direction you put on the hose. And then you're going to press F on these tanks. Make sure that they are set to hydrogen fuel. Hydrogen fuel is what you want. You just need hydrogen. You don't need oxygen for fueling. And then you're going to go in here for these little tanks. Switch these ones to oxygen. And then put yes for provides life support. And you're going to do that for both of these little tiny tanks. All right, there you go. Now what we're going to do is pop that life support I was talking about in. We're just going to go ahead and pop the life support in. And if you have a fully sealed space and you have power, which of course we don't have any power, we don't need 2 life support, so you could go ahead and delete the life support and press M to temporarily turn off the mirroring, and then you can put the life support down. And the life support does not have to be connected to any pipes. If I have oxygen tanks on my ship and they're filled with oxygen, then that means the life support will get oxygen from those tanks. And then the life support also comes with some oxygen. You get about 2 hours of time with oxygen without any kind of extra tanks on your vessel at all. So this itself has it. And if you click on with the link tool, it will show your enclosed space and if it's sealed or not. And of course, this isn't sealed because, well, clearly. One other thing we are going to get to make this a sealed vessel, go ahead and press tab. Now that we don't have the cells now, we can go back into our bricks. And we're going to get one last thing, and that is going to look up, you're going to look up force. And it is a force field. We'll go ahead and add that to the toolbar, and we'll put that right on right now. Go ahead and go from the top. It doesn't really matter what side you go from. And you can kind of see that won't fit there. So what we're going to have to do is like that, because some grids are not going to fit together. So this is where you have to use a small grid no matter what you do. We're just going to go ahead and use the smallest grid. We're just going to fill in that space, just going to where that force field ends. So now it is fully sealed on this side, and I can walk right through this. And this is pretty cheap to make in survival. It is very easy to make force fields. So they're a pretty good door solution when you're first starting out, I won't lie. So we're going to go ahead and get these storage containers going here. So go ahead and pull your storage container out. And the amount of storage capacity you get with a container is going to scale with the size that you make it. So for example, we make a little 1-2 storage unit. We get 1,000 storage in that. Now, if I make just a single 1-1, that has 4,000. But what if I took that same small grid that we just had, like this, and then we made it like the same size? Would it be the same? No, it's only 500. So depending on the grid size you initially choose, your power or your size of what the capacity and will scale. So you can't just use a smaller grid size and expect to get the same results as the other ones. Something to note. So we can kind of go ahead and get those lines there. And we're going to go ahead and get a couple storage units here. And what you could do is simply get our conveyor hose. This works just like the other hose. Go ahead and scale it down to about like that. And just place one on one each edge. And then we're going to just go just like the hoses. And we'll just connect it right through. And it doesn't matter what direction, just connect it through. And now, if you were to press F on the storage unit, and then you go right here, transfer items, you're going to see the storage unit is connected to another one. You could actually transfer stuff to storage unit 4. But what if we want all 4 connected? So the cool thing about pipes and conveyor hoses and all that stuff, they can phase through builds. So if we use the normal conveyor hose now, so like the normal conveyor, and we go and just mount to this bottom of this storage container, and since we have symmetry on, it will mount like symmetrically. So we turn it, and then you can see there, it is actually phasing right through. You can just phase it right through. So what we could do, since we have the storage, like the conveyor equipped right now, that means that if we try to delete something, it will choose to delete the conveyor before it will delete anything else. So the conveyor is attached there. And if you phase yourself into the storage unit, you'll see this black prong thing. That confirms that you are attached to something. You can also take out your link tool, click on it, and it will show number of connected tubes. Any item in the game can have up to 6 connections to it, and that is its absolute limit. You can't go any further than that. So, now that we have these conveyor pipes, what could we do? So you could go and you can take these conveyor pipes and you could stretch them, and we can just keep stretching them, and then you have that middle point now. So now we have the area where they meet, but look, you can't just use a normal one. So if you scroll through the conveyor pipe, you can stack a couple of smaller ones, and with mirroring it connected them. So now if we interact with this storage unit, you can go transfer items, and look, now all of our storage units show up. They're all connected together, and that's how you can confirm that. So what if we want to do something a little different here? So we're going to go and we are going to put a splitter, because this is going to be important for what we're doing here. So we're going to go ahead and add these. Just get all of those added in. And what you could do is add some little buffer ones right here, because you want to meet in the middle, perfectly have enough space for that square one, because you want the square one to attach to both sides. See, look at that. And now we can confirm that it is connected by seeing if we can see all 4 still. Yep. So now we actually have a connection point in the middle, and you could feed through different kinds of inputs. You could do the same thing right here. Oh, I accidentally deleted the floor that time. We got unlucky. Every once in a while that does happen where it won't reliably do it. But you could replace that. But as you can see, because we're using those conveyor tubes and those are the only thing, if I was to go and bring my floor back, you'll see it's going to be able to let me put it no issues at all, because the conveyors are always going to be meant to be used in that fashion. And then if I wanted to, Now I can have collectors, place one of those on each side. You can zoom in here to confirm it is connected. You will see the little prong thing if it is. And you can also check the storage unit. You'll see collector show up. So it is not connected here. So what you'd want to do in this situation, since you have that wall separating it, so get a little one right here until that is coming out a little bit, because the collector can't go through the wall like the other can. Now if we check this again, you're going to see that little black prong thing appeared. And that means that the collector is connected. So there you are, collector 1 and 2, because we put them on both sides of the mirroring. So press F on the collector. We're going to go and switch these to expel. These are going to spit out things we don't want in our system or in our storage units, like rocks that are really heavy. Because we're making this with the idea that you're going to use this in survival. It's something you could kind of port over or give you the idea of what you would create in survival. So then what we could do here, you don't even need to connect anything to those other ports. We could just leave those empty. And then on this port right here, we are going to go ahead and scroll through this the one way, and scroll over to the third option, which is a filter. And we are going to go ahead and connect that filter up. Now press F, and you're going to want to include, actually, wait, we want to do this on the sides. Excuse me. We're doing it on the wrong spot. So right here, just take out one of those pieces, and then you're going to go ahead and attach going outward. You want to make sure that the filter, it has the arrow facing out. See that? Because if we were to mount it from this direction, it wouldn't work right for us. So you're going to have to set this up for each filter. So what you're going to do is set up the filter where it says include. You can change it to exclude, but this one is going to actually include, because this is going to include the rocks that we want to have. But you don't want to have the rocks feeding through this, do you? You actually do, because what's going to happen is the rocks are going to get put inside the storage container, and because we don't want the rocks, it is going to push the rocks out of the expeller, and they're just going to spit out over time. And this works as like an overflow when it goes into your main storage. So what you're going to do here, open up that by pressing F. You're going to create a new filter. Make sure include is chosen. Go to world items on type, and then switch to rock. And you don't want to have any rock come through, or you do want the rock to come through, excuse me. And then you just do the same thing on the other one. Create a new filter. Make sure it's set to include world items, rock. There you go. And now it will force the rock and stuff to get pulled through and then go through here. And if we wanted to, and if we didn't want it to share anything with that storage unit, we could actually change this setup here and just give it a straight up connection, just like so. And now it is not connected to the storage unit system at all. It is just its own entity filtering out the rocks. But then what are we going to do about the storage unit? Well, we're going to change up that method. We're going to go ahead and place one of these, but we're going to place it after another filter. So you go back to the filter, place that, and then you're going to go and get this conveyor. Oh, I don't know why the conveyor is being weird. Okay, Might have to delete the floor real quick. I don't really know why it was being weird with the conveyor with that one piece. It wasn't letting me connect it. Sometimes it can be like that. If you have to end up deleting the floor, you can simply bring it back by pulling these over. And since we made it with a 1 block middle space, you just have that middle space, and then you can go ahead and fix the floor this way. Because like I say, with any of the conveyors, it's just they don't need to worry about collision, pretty much. Even though sometimes things like that where they can't be placed happen. So now that we have the filter, this filter will be set up differently. So let's go ahead and interact with this filter. And this one, you're going to create a new filter, exclude, and you're going to world items and then rock. This will not allow any kind of rocks into the system. And then what we're going to do, now that we have our splitter, we're going to hook up these conveyors with just normal pipes, because one exception with the hoses, the hose itself can go through walls, but the base of the hose or conveyor belt cannot go through walls. So you can't phase like the actual conveyors themselves can. So we can go ahead and bring these over, and we want to make sure that we are going into the storage crate, and our other storage crate is, so yeah, I put the storage crates like right above, so yeah, they're right up there. So in this situation, what kind of thing you could do here is have a bit of a cross split. So what we're gonna do here, because we want this to line up properly, we want it to line up with that storage crate. We're gonna have 3 of those blocks there, and then we're going to add the splitter back, and that's going to connect everything back together. And you're saying, okay, why is he connecting it all together into a loop now? Well, there's a reason for everything, because what this is going to do is make an infinite cycle. To sum it up, you're going to want 2 of those small ones to buffer it there. Then we'll go this way and connect it all the way through, and then indeed, oh, it is not a loop because we need 4. You need to be matching there, or I guess it is 3. I just didn't put the third one in. Then we can get our little turn in there. And the good thing is you can see it all through the walls. You just won't see the filters through the walls. So now that is a full loop, and it is all connected up. So everything will work there. That will connect to the mining laser collector. So what we're going to do is just put a straight pipe going out of this a little bit, and then simply put another collector on the end of this. But this collector, we don't want it so small. So the thing about collectors that's very important is the size of the collector very much matters. If you go and put an absolutely minuscule main collector, the thing that's going to pull in all your resources, you're going to be sitting there for a while. It's fine for the expellers. It's totally a different story. So I would highly recommend using a bigger grid initially with those. So what we're going to do here is we want to meet in these angles. So we're going to get our wedges, and you're just going to pull the wedges over. But look, see, it won't match. This is where those smaller grid sizes are going to come into play. Switch to your smallest grid, and you can kind of see we can line up this angle now, and you can get it where it just ends directly right there. And then you could make this hollow if you want to save some weight. You can do that, and then close off the bottom. And what you could do, since this is hollow, things you could put one of your internal things in here if you wanted to. You could fit stuff in the insides there. So what we're gonna do is, so we have this, and I mean it's not gonna be exactly the prettiest, but what we're gonna do here, you know what? We could actually make it a little bit more elegant. This is gonna look very goofy if I go and commit to this. So let's back it up just a little bit here. And I'm gonna make this a little bit more make sense, you could say. So we could be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing with our craft. So we're gonna give it a buffer layer here. Just basically make it S to make it one block lower than before. And we'll just go ahead and add that, and the collector can come back. All right, there we go. Now we are going to do these block lines, but I'm going to do them differently because there's a lot more of an elegant solution. So we're going to go ahead and use that smallest grid, or the second to smallest actually, and go ahead and get a couple inverse pyramids. And you want to match it up to that flooring. So you can kind of see there, the flooring, we would be 3 out, and that flooring matches there. So then we could go ahead and bring this back. And we'll bring that back where we can go and meet that angle there. And then rinse and repeat. Whatever angle you might want to do, you would just go bring that over. And then there's really no limitations. You just kind of go like so. And then match up that. Oh, I got it the wrong direction. I had the wrong piece actually. I thought I had the inverse pyramid. I definitely did not. So get it stretched on that axis and then pull it out. You can kind of see here now. So in this situation, there's still more room. So what we're going to do is, instead of an inverse pyramid again, we're going to do a wedge and stretch it out on this wide axis first, and then go ahead and press R and switch that out. And that is going to block off the sides. And that already looks a lot more elegant than what I was about to commit to before. So we got that. And what you could do is just leave this little bit open maybe. Because you could make like a decoration vent or something. We'll go in. We're going to basically customize this with paint and decorations in the next chapter of the video, to sum it up. So go ahead and make just a little box right there. Yeah, so there's a little rectangle right there. And then what we're going to do is take the inverse pyramid starting on that line right there. Oh, make sure it is all the way against the wall. And then just do it just to that edge right there, that one before. You can kind of see there. Now we actually have our blocks blocking us because of the storage unit. So what we do in this situation is actually just go up by like that. Now what we could do instead, pull this over and then do it like that. And then all you'd have to do is just enclose off that top line. And then you have a little bit more wiggle room. You could go ahead and put a separating wall. And this could lead to fuel tank expansion, future expansion, or you could hide components. inside these, and also layering up the hole is going to help defenses in combat if you ever get in a combat scenario. There we go. And then what we could do is take a line here with the wedges, bring it all the way over, and you could go all the way back if you wanted to. Or you could go for a little bit of a different variant where we go wedges, it's 3 by 6, and then go with an inverse right here in the middle. And you would want to stretch that out and see how that doesn't fit, because you have to match that top angle too. So you can go and stretch all of that access out, and then you end up with that. So then we have some pretty basic shape right here. Go ahead and add some pyramids here. Or if we wanted to, you could add the square pyramids by using the mounting block. You'd want to make sure to mount it from the outer edge or the inner edge, depending on your situation. Then we can go here with the square pyramid, get it lined up to all the axis that you might want. So for this one, we want to make sure to stretch it out before we press R and pull it down. And there we go. Got that all covered up. And then go ahead and clean up all this floor in here. Just go ahead and connect that whole line through. You want to make sure to keep that one triangle open right here, because then that will allow me to get that right there. And let's say, so we have the inverse right here. You'd want to make sure that you're putting not a pyramid here, but a, you want to get the pyramid right here first, but you got to make sure that it is actually on that block line. Now, for this inner layer, you're going to see how that won't match pretty much no matter what we do, because I need to go and buffer it down one. Need to be down like that, and then we could take our inverse, flip it over just like so, and then you could take another, see how you have a square edge and then you have a triangular edge. To match it, you would use the square pyramid. There you go. And now that is fully matched up. And then you could take an inverse right here, make sure it is on that one. You want to make sure it's on that one axis, because it won't work if it isn't. So see how it is just one there? And then see? Then we got a nice little angle right there. Then if you wanted, you could just go ahead and seal all this off. We want to keep using our smallest blocks to save space and weight, but also give more durability, because like I was saying before, you get more health, but I guess there is the trade-off of your vehicle weighing more, but you're of course going to get some pretty nice advantages going on from that too. Now you're going to see here, we have an uh-oh right here, where no matter what I'm going to do, this will not line up because I did not match this angle right here. So it is important that that angle matches. All of that angle has to be redone because of this. But what we could do here, you could do an inverse upside down, just like that, facing downward. But let's make sure to get that upper angle. But you want to make sure to stop it before that. Get that. And now we have an angle we could work with. But look, now all this angle needs to change because we've made this deeper. So what we now do, so we have all of this here, and we have all of that there, and we got to match it all up. So if you want to match this all up, you're going to have to make sure, see how that length is right there? But you see how we have a space here? So then we will get that wedge, and the wedge will be that matching length and size. And now you can kind of see this would be a square edge. We are going to go ahead and enclose this off for now. So that would be the square edge. So you mount off that square edge, and there you go. Now it's fully enclosed. And now I can fully match up all these angles without any kind of issue. We just need to have that buffer space, since as you can see where that wedge line is. So you could go a couple directions here. You could add a wedge right here, just have a flat zone. Or we could just keep going with the inverse pyramid and meet all those angles. You want to make sure to keep following that angle too. And then you could go, and if you want to put a wedge here, you need to have a back block. So we'll just do that. And then you can go here and pull that all the way over. There you go. Now you have that. And then you kind of go like so, and do the same thing up here, mounting from that bottom block. So, and you could also go, if you wanted to make it more hollow, just go halfway up, meeting on those grid dots, and then you'll be able to do like a half version of it. And then you could have it hollow. So if we just get a little mounting block right there, pull that over, make sure it lines up on the axis, and then do that. Now we have a much more hollow version of that with a big block space in the middle. So we don't have to, we could fit more things in here because of that. Now we can kind of clean up our walls now. There's a lot of extra space we have. We made the walls using the smallest block, so we want to stick with that. Just go ahead and line it all up. Just get it where it's all connecting together. And you can kind of see where there is a buffer here. So we'll go ahead and add a wedge. You can kind of see where that ceiling is. And you want to make sure to keep that ceiling going. There we go. And like I say before, that double layering on the hull is really going to help you on deflecting damage and keeping yourself alive in combat too. So those situations, it just overall helps to go over here, stretch this out. You can kind of see where all that floor is elevated. And we can just keep going across. And one cool little trick, if you mount from this side and then just pull over to that other edge, then you can easily just get that other side. And then you can just put a block line, kind of blocking this out. And if you wanted to hide all this, you just get a little block line, keep it hollow. It's really up to you if you wanted to do like a big solid piece there or something like that. Just like so. And if you wanted, you could then close off any of the gaps or holes. Something like that. And you should have a little bit of a ship design, something along the lines of this so far. We could go ahead and now close this ceiling off. I didn't actually make it far enough. So it's a lot easier to do ceilings and such, starting from that middle point and then going outward. Because then you're knowing that you're not going to undershoot it and you won't have to redo it. All right, so that should be pretty good. And then, like I say, you want to make sure that your collector is unobstructed because this is going to be sucking on all your materials. So we're just going to go ahead and put a nice little wedge right there. That'll look good. And we have a nice little aerodynamic look to this. It's not super duper boxy. I mean, it's boxy, but it's not like giga boxy. You know what I mean? So yeah, the next bit we're going to start working on now is going to be the windshield. All right, let's get our canopy windshield on here. Since we already have a wall right here, if you scroll through the canopy, we have two options. You have this option. We could go and make a wide window, just a flat one like that. Or you could go and scroll, and then we have this window, which is my preferred one. And you can kind of see how it doesn't line up with that. So we will actually have to use a mounting block. So what you can do here, go ahead and go back to your blocks and just go ahead and just simply make a temporary line going down a few blocks. Doesn't really matter how many because you're just going to delete them after you're done. Then we'll just go ahead and go back here and you can go ahead and now line that up to that wedge edge. You're going to have one space block there. See? So we'll go ahead and bring that across. So you should end up with 4, 4. Then we can go ahead and do it like that. Bring it over so it's like more of just like a big windscreen for us. And then on the bottom, you could do the same kind of thing where you just go like so, and you could make this one follow that inverse pyramid. You see how that pyramid line right here? You want to follow that line instead. And then just press R, you can bring this out, and then they match. But now you have a space here in the middle that you have to fill. And it's just like, well, you can't use a canopy here. You could, but uh, there's just nothing. The canopy wouldn't fit. So you could either put a block line right here. We can get rid of that temporary mounting block. You could either put a block line right here, but that would obscure your entire middle vision. So this is where we're going to introduce the glass block. So press tab and then look up glass. Oh, if I can spell it right. So look up glass and then just simply add just the ordinary glass cube to your bar. And then you're going to go to your glass cube, and it's just like all the other cubes. It has all the different shapes and pyramids and all that stuff. And we're going to scale it all the way down to the smallest one. First, let's go ahead and get a mounting block, or see how that corner is overshooting. You'd rather be undershooting than overshooting. So go ahead and bring that, and you want these glass blocks to be as big of a thing as possible. You don't want to use a bunch of small ones. So try to make it the exact size you need. And you can kind of see here, see, this isn't even actually lining up. So what you'd actually want to do here is use a wedge. And then just go ahead and end that wedge right there. And then on this one, you would use an inverse pyramid. Make sure it is lining up to that edge. Pull the corner over, just like that. And then you have this edge. Oh, you don't want to pull it so far though. I pulled it a little too far. You just need to do it like so. And then you just repeat with the pyramid. Just the 1 by 1. Or actually you could do the 2 here. With the pyramid here, you could go 2. And then on this one, you would just do the 1 or the 2. Oh, sorry, I mean. And then all you need to simply do is go and put a wedge line going all the way across, or maybe you want to end it right here because this is where the top windshield bit ends. And then all we need to simply do is go and fill this in with an inverse pyramid right here in this corner. Just like that. And then I could go ahead and add a, what would I want to add? The wedge. I need to actually fill in this though, so we could mount the wedge in. And I could just mount that in and get an inverse right up here at that top corner. And that will all meet in nicely. And if you wanted, you could just put another block layer on. The more layers of these, the honestly, the better. You're going to be raising your weight, but this is going to be extremely good for combat, or if you get in any combat scenarios. So having that layering definitely helps. You just want to make sure that your height clearance is always good. Just go ahead and turn off no clip, turn off your jetpack and all that, and then make sure that that height clearance is always good. You can always walk through. All right, so everything looks good there. It's always important to look at that stuff. So you can kind of see here where our windshield is not lining up on the bottom. So we will have to fix this. This is something I should have noticed, but I didn't. So we're just going to go ahead and change this block line right here. Now you could actually make this work just with how we have it here. If I can get the block in the right spot. Ah, I see why. Because I have a awkward shape space I need to fill in there. If I calculated my windshield a little bit better, it would make sense. Oh, yep, we need to pull that out more. But since I chose to do this all as a live build, like I say, line up to the dot there, and then you'll always be good. But since we're trying to line up to a certain area, you're going to have to line up this dot. You're going to have to do this all the way down unless you want to change the angle of the entire vessel. So you'll just kind of keep rinse and repeating this. Make sure that it is copying just that dot, following the dot. This is going to be how you can basically get your complex lines adjusted. And then go ahead and make sure that is stretched correctly on both axes. But you get it. Rinse and repeat. Go down to make sure that that dot line is always lined up. And as long as your dot lines are lined up, you can make any angle pretty much work. And this will also allow for pretty cool designs for any kind of aesthetics like paint and stuff. Oop, I got it wrong direction. There we go. Now it is all fixed up, and I know that took a little bit of work, but in the end, that kind of stuff can be very worthwhile. So let me get this layer fixed back up, and we'll just change this to be this situation. Sometimes changing the aesthetics as you go is pretty fun to do, because you kind of see as your build evolves and gets shaped over time. Nothing is ever going to end up looking perfect at first. We're going to go ahead and add an inner wedge right here. And we're going to end it right before that and just add that. Oop, inverse pyramid, but we want it to go that way. And now what I will do is add a block layer. I can't get the block layer in because I put that wedge going all the way to the end. Get that. And then we can fill in a wedge, sealing this all in right here. And then just simply put a block line right there. And now that looks real nice. It looks actually probably better than it did before. All right, so yeah, look at that. Everything looks good in here. The only thing we don't have is there needs to be a wedge there between those two inverse. And you could do like a normal wedge, or you could do like the glass wedge to keep this all one glass pane. There you go. And what I might go ahead and do, we're going to go ahead and seal in. Oh, I'm using glass blocks. All right, go ahead and seal in this. There we go. Oh, I don't even know if I did it on the correct block line. Ah, I see what we got going on here. So what we're going to do is just hit it with this kind of thing, and we'll just terminate it right there. And you could even raise that up. Go ahead and fill in that spot there. You could always put headlights or something there if you wanted to. And everything should be good here. It's all sealed in now. We're going to need our solar panels if we want to get any power generation on this thing. So the solar panels, I was thinking we could put kind of like wings going on the sides here. So we're just going to have just 2 little solar panels on each side, and that should be more than enough power generation for this whole thing. So let's make sure and check and see if our vessel is sealed. It's saying it's not sealed. Probably because the force field isn't on for some reason. Let me rebuild the force field. For some reason it deactivated on me. Let's just redo that. There we go. I don't know why the force field deactivated. Probably because the power was off. There we go. Yeah, so now it should be sealed. You just take the link tool and click on the life support, and that will reset it. You can kind of see it's all stabilizing, and it will say that it will be stable. It's good to go, and you have good life support. Just takes a little while for the oxygen to stabilize in the room. Nominal. There you go. Fully sealed vessel. So you can go and survive in space with this. So now we're going to go ahead and get our throttle and stuff taken care of. So let's go ahead and we'll make an elevated, just so we can see out of our glass. We'll make it elevated here. And we're just going to go ahead and just make a line going across. Leave a space right there. And then just put a wall on the back here. And then add a wedge going inward like that. Okay. So now we can get our yoke here. And you're going to see the yoke is wanting to mount from this side. We want it to mount from here, but we want it down here. So of course, you already know what I'm going to do. The mounting block. We just need just a temporary one right there. And now I can just snugly fit it right in its spot and delete the mounting block. And we're good to go. So the yoke is in right there. And technically you don't really need a seat. You can control a vessel just by standing and using a yoke, but isn't that a little weird? So we're going to go ahead and send this back. So going back here following these grid lines, you want to, I'd say, have your seat around here. So we're going to go ahead and get a little 3 stack there. give a nice little elevation for the seat, because the seat will be too low if I just put it directly on. And then just go ahead and place a seat on just like that. And I might have put it too high up, but you can just get in the seat real quick, go into third person, kind of check things. Yeah, I put the seat probably one block too high. We kind of glitched through. So if I go and, because you can grab the sticks even if we don't have a computer linked to this. So you can see everything is at a good elevation actually. It's just my seat is really high off the ground. So we're going to want to have a little bit of an elevation. So let's go ahead and do this, where we'll just have a little ramp that you will go on, like a little platform. So we can go ahead and add it just like so, going all the way across. And we'll just add this going on the front, and then add another wedge going on the front of that, ending at the glass. So now we have an elevated platform, so it's not going to look so weird like we're so off the ground when we're sitting in our seat. See? That makes a lot more sense now. And we have good spacing between everything. So in theory, we could just add our spaceship computer, and I would suggest having the spaceship computer somewhere where you could interact with it easily. So we can just put it across from the life support. If we do that, we don't even need to turn off the mirroring, and just pretty much get all of our stats this way. Now it's not going to say we have any stats because I haven't hooked this up yet. And remember, start from the yoke, pull over, and then connect. And there you go. You have that connected now. And that will give some kind of register. It actually should show the light cruise stuff too. Let's go ahead and get some engines on the back here. We just use some square engines, get a couple of them just like that. And then on this top line, we could go ahead and add, let's see, let's go ahead and add a line like so. So you'd kind of do like that, and then close this off. Now see how we have that little space there? Gonna want to fill that in with our littlest block. That's why it's really good to have the tiny block, because sometimes you'll just get in a situation where you feel like you kind of need it. Then we can go ahead and add an inverse. We could probably add the inverse going as far as we want. Go like so. And then just close in this. Or we can actually add more thrusters here if we wanted to. Because remember, you have the different grid sizes for even the thrusters. So we could go use some like this. So you press R, you can pull them outward. There we go. You got some more thrusters there. And then we got to keep that pipe unobscured. So what you could do is, instead of going down with a with the wedge, just go up instead. Easy. And then we could just kind of go with an inverse pyramid to connect that block line. And then just simply either go inverse pyramid and pull down. Then we could just go like this. Oh, oops. Just go with one. And that's actually the square. Oh, wait. No, so we actually can't do that because how I have this stretched out. So we can just leave it like that, honestly. What we could do is just make this a reverse wedge going this way. But that wouldn't work, would it? Because you wouldn't be able to match in this end. So let's get all of that matched in. And then we will just go ahead and follow that shape. You're going to see we have to do a flipped inverse right here. And then just add a wedge block to buffer it off, just like so. What this will have to make us do is we will have to add another layer here, just like so. And that actually works because then it all matches. All right, so we have all of our forward thrust. We probably have a lot of forward thrust right now. Let me see. Yeah, we're at 98%. We're almost actually perfect on forward thrust. So now we just need to get our lateral thrust, the agility stuff. And it's pretty straightforward. What you could do is we could actually blast out some of this floor. That's why it's nice we have this extra space. And then just simply add some giant thrusters right here. But you want to make sure that they are on the correct axis. So what we could do, since we have so much space in here, you just add those. And these are going to be like overkill. Just these are going to be overkill. For lateral thrusters, you really don't need a lot. Yeah, 120. Yeah, we're over 120% already. So that's really all you need. And then we can just go ahead and enclose those in. And thrusters do not get their thrust blocked by you putting blocks over them. So in theory, if you wanted to, you could hide the thrusters inside it and make totally aesthetic thrusters, like ones that just look cool with your own design ability. And then just make it where those thrusters are not even visible. Or if we wanted to, you could kind of change the shape of what the thruster is going to look like by just altering these angles here. Oh, want to make sure that this one there, and then you have like some little triangles there. You can kind of just experiment around, do stuff like that. And that is all enough thrust to be able to get us around now. Now, there's one important thing we are missing, and that is our mining laser. So we're going to go ahead and grab our mining laser. I should actually already have it. Yeah, we have it right here. So the mining laser, we're going to put a couple of them on. And the cool thing about the mining laser is you can stretch it out too. So what we can do, we could do a little bit smaller ones. And it doesn't really matter where you place these. Preferably the lower the better, I'd say. And you can stretch these out pretty far. I would suggest always stretching them past the cockpit, or else you're going to have problems where your lasers are going to phase through if you go and combine them together, which I could always suggest combining them together. You're just going to end up with a better time. So those are going to be some pretty effective lasers. And what we're going to do is we're going to combine all the lasers together. But how you do this is you're going to pull with the link tool, grab each laser, and connect them all to one laser. So we're going to connect all three of the others to this top one. And that is the only laser that we have connected. Now, to make it where we can shoot the laser from our ship, press tab and go into your codex here and look up event. You want the event gate, and that is really all you need. Let's also get a switch, because the switch will be something important we're going to need for this next bit of the tutorial. And then also look up monitor and go ahead and add the monitor somewhere. You can actually replace probably the conveyor stuff. We just don't really need the conveyor things anymore. All right, so let's get our event gate, And you can put this event gate anywhere. You could actually hide this in the floor. This is why it's good we have a lot of hollow spaces in here, because then you can just do things like put the event gate wherever you want. So what you're going to do, place that event gate down, get your link tool, pull from the yoke with your link tool into this event gate. You're going to see the icon change. The icon doesn't change, it's not connected right. Then pull this simply to the laser and hold shift, let go, and this will let you connect multiple things at once. And connect this to all 4 lasers while you're holding shift. You just click and hold while you're holding shift. So all of those are now connected. So if we were to go into this event gate here, you press F on it, it's now going to say if your primary is press, which is left click when you're in a ship, that means that it is going to activate whatever you have. And it says we have 7 I-beams, which are the lasers, the firing of the lasers. And because I have this all connected up here, now when I control the ship, which we can go ahead and do right now, everything's all hooked up properly, we can now fire the lasers. And look at that. And you're going to see that they're connecting. The lasers are fusing together. Now, they're not fusing together properly. So let me check that. I actually think I might have them connected up wrong. If you ever see that happen, that means that you had the lasers connected up wrong. We need to redo this. I think it is the other way around. I'm connecting from the wrong direction. Oh, oops. This one also needs to get disconnected. So we need to be connecting from the one laser we want to combine to. Not to the laser we want to combine to, but from. That's what I mean about link direction always mattering. And now, look at that. So now it's like a Death Star super weapon. So look at our laser beams combine at a certain point. And we can go in and you can adjust those lasers how far apart. So if you change all of these merge distances off of 2.5 and make it either further or closer, you got to make sure you change that merge distance to be the same for each one, or else they will not merge correctly and you're going to have a wonky laser. So make sure if you change everything to like 3, you got to make sure it's all 4 lasers get changed to 3 by pressing F on it and then changing its settings. But yeah, you could also use the event gate to pretty much link anything else to it. For example, if you had landing gear, you could hink up the landing gear and then just press G on your keyboard and landing gear can go up or down. So I'm going to show you some things like the monitor. We're going to get some pretty useful things on our screen here to be able to know what's going on with our game. And we have multiple options of the monitor, just like with everything else. We can scroll around. We can go ahead and place a couple monitors. We're going to place one right here, one right there, and then place a couple of switches in the wedged version right there. So what we're going to do is you're going to go from the life support, pull to the life support to this. And you're going to see it's upside down. That's because we have the monitors upside down. This is a good way to always confirm if your monitor is upside up or not. So what we actually have to do is just like this. But you wouldn't want to use these types of wedge ones because of that. So we want to go like that. And then you can keep those as wedges. The wedge switches are cool. And then now we'll pull it. pull it over, and then there you go. It's going to say nominal. It will tell you your life support. Now, if you want to have your life support where you toggle it on and off, pull from the switch to the life support. And there you go. You can see it turning off. You can turn it back on. You just turn it on and off whenever you want. We'll just keep it on for now so we can breathe. And then you go ahead and pull here and connect one of these to one of these oxygen tanks you have here. Oh, yeah, of course. Pull from the tank. Make sure you're always pulling from the item to a screen, or else it's not going to work. There you go. It's going to show your O2 reading inside that tank. And then we only need to read one tank for the O2 because even though we have two tanks, they're going to drain equally. So it won't really matter seeing the other one. Now we're going to get one from the H2 tank, just one of our H2 tanks. We don't need to read both of them because once again, they are going to also drain evenly because of how this system is set up. And then lastly, we will get just a single one of our storage units also. Now the storage units, they are not equally going to fill up, so that is something you might want to have multiples for. Just find any of your storage units and then just pull it, and then that will show how full your storage unit is. And for that one, you could have like a whole wall of screens and just have all the storage units reading at once. And then we have this right here. This is going to be turning on and off your collector. So go ahead and pull this down, connect it to the collector, and then we have this set to collect, of course, and then just toggle it on, toggle it off, and you should see your collector turn red when it's off. And then now the collector will not pick up things randomly when you're flying around, and you can use it when you want it. Alright, so we're probably going to want fuel in our vessel. So go ahead and hit tab since we're in creative mode. This is why this works. Let's go ahead and save what we've been working on so far. Let's call this starter ship. You can name yours whatever you want. And then just go ahead and save that. And then refill all tanks. Go ahead and press that. There we go. Now it didn't refill our oxygen, which is interesting. But hey, we don't really need it because we're in creative. It's not really necessary. In survival, you would be getting oxygen the easy way. So everything should be all connected up here good. When you go into your Starship computer or spaceship computer, you're going to see your light cruise rating here too. That means that you have sufficient fuel for your light cruise engines. And that is pretty much everything. And that is pretty much everything here. There's not really a whole lot else that needs to be done. This thing is pretty much ready to use in the field. It's going to be all about aesthetics now. Really about whatever you want to do there. Oh, I see why. I was going to say, why isn't that lining up? It's because that's a wedge there. Oh, that wedge actually will not reach. I see why. Because there was a little block right there. Alright, so now we have the basics of all a fully working ship. I mean, this is everything you need. Ah, there's actually one cherry on top we could add. And that is going to be looking up the speedometer. We can go ahead and just replace whatever we want, get rid of the event gate, I guess. And then one of the newest items that just got added, an altimeter. If I can find it. Here it is. Artificial horizon. So if you just look up AL, you'll find it. Just replace the glass block. And these are both very cool. The artificial horizon just got added to the game very recently. It's a brand new item, and that's very cool. That just lets you, of course, see what is the top forward angle. And then speedometer, oof, upside down. So we'll just put our speedometer. You can just kind of put it wherever you feel like it. But for my situation, I am just going to put it right here. Press M to temporarily turn off the mirroring. We'll just have it on that side. Now we have everything all set up. This is ready to control. And now we can fly around with the ship. And oh, it's gonna say sometimes the game will miscalculate your life support. It will say there's a leak. It's like a false positive, but it isn't actually true. You just need to toggle the life support off and on. That's why it's good to have a screen and a button for your life support, just in case you notice that you depressurized for just some odd reason. Um, I'm gonna note something when it comes to controlling a ship. Something that's gonna make it a lot easier with interacting with the inside of your cockpit is pressing escape, going into options, and in your key mapping. Now this isn't actually mapped by default. So free look by default is hold. You have to hold in the middle mouse button. I would suggest going to free look toggle and making it the middle mouse button instead. You could have both on the same key. And then what happens is whenever you tap the middle mouse button, instead of the camera following your reticle and the ship moving around, you're going to be able to interact with stuff inside your cockpit while you're piloting your ship. Makes it a lot easier to do. So you can kind of see as the speed changes and stuff. We can kind of go explore around now. We have fuel. So what we're going to do is go to the starter planet. I'm going to kind of show you a little bit of the basics of getting there, and that will segue into the survival portion after we get a little bit more designing done on our ship. I need to show you guys a little bit of that stuff. So if you press H on your keyboard while you're piloting a ship, that will open up our galaxy map. And this is where you get your first taste of how small you are in this galaxy. This is the star system we're in. You can go everywhere. You can go every single place you see is a star system with multiple planets and moons that you can go to. Yes, every single one you can go to. Every one. And all those lines you see there are warp gate paths that you could go and warp around to specific systems and skip around. But if you go up here at the top left and switch to system map, now it shows everything in this system. This is the starter system and the same place where you start in survival. Everyone starts in this system in survival. This is the exact same for everyone. So what we're going to do is basically just mark something that is close to this planet, because you can't actually mark planets themselves. But if you click on a planet, you will see its stats. It will say if it's breathable or not, things like that. So we're going to go ahead and mark whatever the closest thing is. So we're going to mark this stash. And all you have to do is click on it and then click like the activate set as target. And then we can just hit escape, hit F, and autopilot to location. Now, if you want to freely fly around in light cruise, which is your main fast travel method, you just hold down L, it charges up, and then you'll fly there. But if you hit autopilot, it will automatically charge up the light cruise and then fly you in the right direction to your destination. So like this. And now autopilot will automatically fly us all the way to the starter planet. So I'm of course going to cut away here because this is just going to be some travel time. And here we are in the orbit of the planet. If you want to cancel your autopilot early before it gets to the destination, which would be overshooting the planet, you could just simply press X and that will cancel it out. But We're still fairly far from the planet, so we're going to want to use light cruise a little bit more. But something to note, the closer you get to any mass, just like if it was in real life in that concept, gravity will get stronger and you will go slower. So staying further away from the planet while you're wrapping around it is a good idea. Good idea. All right, here we are on the lighter side. You can go ahead and land now. So the biggest thing to note about the planets in this game is as of right now, they don't actually rotate. They're tidally locked, is what you call it, and they don't rotate around in the solar system. So if you go somewhere that is eternally daytime, or I mean, that is daytime, it'll be eternally daytime. If you have eternal dusk, like right here, where it's like kind of in between, it'll just stay like this forever. So as you can see, we are automatically slowing down as we get closer to the planet. Gravity is getting stronger. But just like No Man's Sky or a game like that, you can just freely go to the planet, no loading screens, nothing like that. Just fly here and everything will load in as you get closer and closer. We'll deactivate light cruise here in just a moment. Give it a second and light cruise off. There we go. And here we are, planet side. So I could, of course, just get out of my ship now. But now that there's gravity and I have no landing gear, you're going to see what happens. And this is the reason I wanted to come to the planet. Because I wanted to show you guys how to solve a problem that a lot of players have. And that is, well, gravity's going to do its thing, and now your vehicle is simply going to fall to the ground and blop. You're no longer able to float. And that can be a problem if you ever want to make design changes or anything like that. So what you're going to do is, this is why we got our construction anchor at the very beginning. So get your construction anchor and you can place it wherever you want on the vessel, preferably somewhere where you can easily access it. So we'll turn off mirroring and I'll put it just right under the life support, just chilling right here. And you're going to want to see that little anchor right there light up. See how it's lit up a lot brighter? And if you have bloom on, it's a lot easier to notice. But now it will float if I get out of this. And if we go into our tools menu, and then you get the anti-grav gun, add that to your toolbar, this will allow you to manipulate the item, and you can move the ship around. So you can grab the grav tool and you see that dot there? That's its main center of mass. And you can just go ahead and see now that the construction anchor is on, it floats. And if you wanted to, you grab just the sides, you can pull this around, go wacky with it, flip it over. It's pretty fun messing around with the grav gun. It's like a grav gun from Half-Life, to sum it up. But just kind of flip it around. And we can just bring it back down. And of course, you might get it kind of topsy-turvy. And if you get in a spot where it's kind of hard to deal with, just turn off the anchor real quick, let it fall to the ground, and start over. There it goes. And just kind of pull it over. There you go.